ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome to Critically Casual. I'm your host, Three Cups, and joining me as, for the first time ever, at least on this show, is the super special guest, Dragon, no, who goes by, just, because she's awesome, who's right over there. Hi, Dragon.
Street Cuff. How's it going?
I'm doing quite well. Um, you know, today's a day. Today's a
That it
Monday.
is.
Yeah, a lot of people would hate Mondays, but Mondays are great because, it's a pretty casual day. Yay!
True. If there was ever a reason to like Mondays, this would be it.
Yeah, exactly. That and maybe some lasagna, but that's later. That's dinner. Um, uh, yeah. I wanted to say welcome. Thanks for being here. You're amazing for coming at this time and you know being here instead of playing games with friends or streaming or things you ever normally do.
Yeah, it's definitely taken a hit out of my non-existent social schedule to be here, so I'm glad you appreciate it.
I feel honored. So let's talk about why we're here, which is we're talking about movies today, of course. Well, musicals, movies, musical.
Movie musicals.
Yes, exactly. We're talking about those today. So I've dubbed this week, the title for this week's show is Respect Your Classics. Because, respect your elders. But no, you're respecting the classics. Um,
We're old enough. We can call ourselves elders, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Because we're going to spend a lot of time reminiscing about high school, which was
Oh, gosh.
almost 10 years ago for me at this point.
Well, because you were, what, 2 years ahead? Or 1 year?
I graduated 2012.
Okay, okay.
Almost there. But yeah, so today, first we're going to start by talking about Singin' in the Rain. And then we'll go into The Music Man. Normally we'll go into spoilers about the second movie later on, but honestly, these movies are 60 and 70 years old. So I just say, let's have like a micro section in the beginning where we don't spoil things. But who really cares? Go watch these
This
movies.
first 5 minutes is the non-spoiler.
Yeah, basically. Because, these movies and musicals are so referenced in so much that even if you haven't seen the original, you've definitely seen something that it's been referenced on. So,
Yeah.
there's not really a spoiler here.
Yeah, and as much as I love these, like I'm the one that kind of was suggesting this line of movies. As much as I love them, like it's not like the stories are the main attraction here.
Hmm.
Like they're good stories, but they're yeah, spoiling these I feel like isn't as criminal as in some movies.
Yeah, let's all spoil Avengers Endgame, the opening weekend. Let's do that.
Oh, gosh.
Awful people. Okay, so let's get in
Also,
here.
I side note, I like that you blame this on me, my choice of movies. So if it doesn't go well, you can just put it all on me.
Yeah, it's totally not my fault. I mean, and I like to give the guests the choice of movies only because I want them to come back. So I don't want to do what I do to Dev, which is just pick the most random movie that they've never heard of. And then they're like, I hated this movie. I'm never coming back to your show.
Fair. I want to say this is my first time, so letting me pick is a good first impression.
Yeah. So next time, you get one movie and then I get one movie. And you'll probably hate the movie I choose.
Fair enough. Hey, I made you play a game with me that we ended up both liking, but it was also a lot longer than I was expecting. So you
Longer.
stuck that out. So
I mean, hey, you didn't really make me play that game. It was a good time.
it was.
I mean, twist my arm, why don't you? From hundreds of miles away.
No.
All right, so let's get in here today. Let's start talking about our first movie today, which is Rain. Which I'm gonna do what Dev normally does, which he talks about. The movie was produced and directed and made in 1952 with a budget of 2,540,000. $2,540,000. There we go.
Got there eventually.
Yeah, totally. And as of 2022, ended up making a gross total of. That's not right. It says it's only made $1,895,000, so not even half its budget. So
That's not right.
yeah, this must be telling me something different. Damn you, IMDb. Yeah,
So even adjusting for current money, like no, that wouldn't be anywhere near right.
yeah, it
So
yeah, that can't be right. Oh well, I'm not gonna it's Dev's fault. He's not here, so
damn it, Dev.
yeah,
And he's not here to defend himself. So
exactly. We can talk shit all we want up until his name pops up in the chat.
true.
Yeah. So, let's start talking about this here. Singin' in the Rain. Um, Gene Kelly, the main actor.
Gene Kelly. I'm a fan.
He's pretty nice. I thought it was pretty good watching him again and watching this movie. I forgot that he also directed this movie. So,
Right?
yeah.
Like that's impressive to me. Like he's more than just, the triple threat singing, dancing, acting. Like he is man of many talents.
Hmm. So, it was definitely an interesting thing to watch him watching this movie. And I still gotta say though, he still had some creepy moments to me, which were only like, I don't like when actors spike the camera. I don't care, even if it's in the middle of a musical moment where they're not like I know they're not technically in the fourth wall. They're not breaking the fourth wall by spiking the camera. It's just something that's I find weird in movies. I really do.
I mean, that's fair. That's yeah.
He does it often. And I gotta complain that like the story for Dawn and Kathy is not the best for me. Only because it's like, like she says in the beginning when they first meet, you expect every lady to just go head over heels for you, and then she just kind of does.
Yeah, the two of them, like, there are only a couple moments that I feel like show that it's more than just, oh, you're attractive and you're attractive. Like there are only a couple moments, like when they're joking, after the bad screening, like you can see them kind of like poke fun at each other, and a couple moments that like there are only a couple moments that I feel like they really show any more to their relationship than just like you said, oh, we're both attractive and we're falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I do gotta say though, I loved Cosmo Brown, Donald O'Connor. Like, he was
Oh
probably my
gosh.
favorite part in this movie upon my rewatch that I did. Because it's like,
Yeah, that's fair.
he has no business being there for most of the movie. He's just a fun little addition. That's like, make him laugh, make him laugh.
He's just the comedic relief. He's one of those like side characters, sidekicks, whatever. He's one of those that like sort of steals the show a little bit. Like it would not be anywhere near as fun as it is without him.
I do wonder if like during the scene where Moses supposes his noses. Yeah, it's Toes or Roses. Yeah. Oh, that's high school right there.
God.
Yeah. But during that scene where they come up at the very end with the vowel A poster, I've always wondered if that's how it was always supposed to end, or if like the ending was just like
spontaneous.
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I feel like it was always supposed to end with them singing whatever vowel, but it's whatever vowel he grabs off the wall. It's not always going to be the A.
That'd be funny, actually.
Yeah, so out there's a couple of cuts where they're going, you Ooh.
I like that your mic cut out, so you couldn't even hear that beautiful
Yeah.
you.
Next time. Next time.
But no,
Gotta
that would be fun. I think that'd be a fun thing that they would have done.
uh fun time. It was good to watch this movie again. Um it definitely brought me back to high school because like we were both in this in high school. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was the I was one of the like people that kind of plays multiple roles. I was a police officer in the first scene holding back the crowd. I was the diction coach
Ah.
that tries to teach Lena how to talk. I think there was like one other. I don't remember what the other one was, but I played a couple of the like smaller roles.
Mhm.
And
I
then you were in the band?
Not this year. This year I
Not
was
this
on
year. What were you?
stage as
I'm
R.F.
trying to
Simpson.
remember. That's right. Okay. I remember that.
Good
Cuz
times.
usually for the musicals you were, well,
I I have a hard time remembering sometimes. I'm
yeah.
pretty
I'm trying
darn
to think.
sure for the Music Man I was in the pit. But whenever I talk to Dev about it, he's like, I was in the pit for
Mm.
Music Man. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Cause whatever.
I probably have
You still have the original.
the playbill. Yeah. I was going through a bunch of stuff. I found most of my playbills, like my professional playbills of plays that I've actually seen. But I think I actually did see the Music Man playbill.
I love that.
I should pull it up and see what you're listed as.
I also remember one year, I don't remember what year it was, I played as a background actor for one musical. I
Mm.
wasn't in the pit and I wasn't anybody important. I can't even remember which musical it was. It was before The Music Man.
'Cause I'm gonna say because before the Music Man, the only one I was there for, I wasn't in the first year that I was my freshman year. It was She Loves Me.
That sounds right. Yeah. I was in She Loves Me as a background character because
Mm.
we had better trombone players in the pit. And then the next year I was in the pit for The Music Man and then I was back on
Mm.
stage. That's it. There we go.
Yep.
Haha, history solved.
There you go. Glad I could help.
Thank you. Yeah. Um though I have to remember going back to watching this movie, the R.F. Simpson in this movie and the R.F. Simpson that I played, two totally different people.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say the number of things that like watching the movie, as much as I love the movie, it was definitely like, um, it's kind of one of those things that like you have a fondness for anything that you're in. And you're just like, I liked the way that we did this thing, or I like the way that we did this thing.
Mm.
Because I mean, especially in musicals, like the music isn't going to be exactly the same, and like you said, like the characters can even be a little different. Like, so yeah, there are definitely things that watching, I was like, oh man, that was really fun the way we did it. To be honest, like the pie scene that we did,
Hmm.
that was fantastic. That was a really good pie scene.
But the
Or
pie scene at
smash
this
it
one,
into her face.
yeah, 'cause everyone wanted that scene the most. They're like, I want to pie her in the face.
That was fun.
That was fun. Um, but back onto the professional version, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a couple things that always come to my mind, which would be, uh, I like their use of storytelling in at least the Broadway musical one. The
Okay.
yeah, the Broadway night, how they don't like, they tell a story using only music rather than, but that's like the only real time I feel like they do that in this movie. The rest of the time they'll tell stories and then they'll add music to it later.
Yeah, that's fair. I do like that scene when he's explaining the one song. He's like, "This is kind of what it is," and then they perform over
Yeah.
it. I thought that one was really cool just because like you said, it kind of takes you out of just, oh, these people are going about their lives, this is what's happening around them, and it kind of just takes you into more of a I don't really know what a good word for that is, but just more of, like you said, like letting the music tell the story, like,
Yeah.
and letting the visuals even. And it was very minimalistic from what I remember. Like parts of it had like the big flashy lights and everything, but there
Mhm.
were a few parts that like it was very much just the music and the dancing.
Yeah. Like
So,
when I think of that Broadway musical number, uh it's the way it goes through is it's a guy who wants to he's got to dance, you know? Gotta dance. He auditions, he eventually makes it. When he's out on a gig, he falls in love with this woman who then is paid to essentially be the boyfriend of a mobster, and he loses love, and he's like, man, I don't think I can be ever out here again until somebody else fresh to Hollywood gotta dance. And he was
yeah.
reminded of why he came out there in the first place, not for love. And he's reinvigorated. There we go. So
Mm,
it's a story told only through the music and the dancing and whatnot, rather than people
yeah.
being like, you know, I love you. This isn't the right setting to tell you I love you. So,
Oh my gosh. That part were like it was cute, but it also was like kind of cringy to me. He's like, "I'm so dramatic, I have to have a setting." I'm like, "Oh my
uh,
god." Like, please.
it's pretty damn cringy. But it also has one of the beautiful scenes. Like, I love the way she looks with all the lights in the background and the makeup, and
I was gonna
it's
say that
lovely.
it was kind of fun just because then, like, as he says each step, he's like, "You're on a mountain, there's the breeze, the starlight, the moonlight." Like,
Mhm.
it was kind of a fun thing to see because I feel like in that moment, like, he's showing her, to me that moment is like, because up until then she had kind of berated movies, she
Yeah.
had kind of berated being like, it's not real and it's all fake and it doesn't mean anything, whatever. And so in that moment, that was one of the moments, actually, even though I personally found it kind of cringy,
Mhm.
I felt like that was one of the moments that did kind of give them a little more depth, the two of them, because it was kind of him sharing, in my mind, it was kind of him sharing a little bit of, I felt like, why he liked movies and
Mhm.
his kind of passion and the things that he really liked about them, because he could show her, like, with just a few little switches and a few lights and whatever, like he could show her, like, these are the feelings I'm trying to show to you, and these are
Mhm.
the this is the place I would take you to. And I did like that, even though it was cringy to me, because I felt like it was one of those moments that really gave a little more depth, like of him actually giving her or telling her something even without words.
Absolutely. I like that's actually one of my favorite scenes too, because one of my favorite consistencies through this film is there it's a musical movie about making a musical movie. So
Yeah.
so many times throughout the movie they'll have moments where they're like, yeah, this is what we should do, and they actually explain a proper step of what people did in proper film production back in the 1912s or whatever year this takes
Hmm.
place in. I know Music Man takes place in 1912, but it was
I
recorded.
was gonna say, I think this one was. eh,
This one might be 1950,
I think I was gonna say no. I think this one was late 20s.
1912.
Yeah, is when it's supposed to be set. Uh,
So
yeah.
I found it kind
It
of
says late
funny.
20s.
Sorry. I
No,
found
you're
it
fine.
kind of funny because in this movie, Singing in the Rain, they talk about Warner Brothers. Like, Warner Brothers is making a talking picture. And I ended up watching this movie on HBO Max, which is made by Warner Brothers, or is one of the things owned by Warner Brothers. But then I
Mm,
went to watch The Music Man,
yeah.
and that is not on HBO Max, but is made
Is
by
that
Warner Brothers.
is that one under Disney's domain now?
I don't. I ended up renting it through YouTube.
Yeah, because it started Warner Brothers, but who?
Who owns them?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter right now when we're talking about
Yeah,
Singing in the Rain.
yeah.
Um, I loved the scene where they show the movie the first time where they're making a talkie.
That
Like
one's so
it's
it's so
so
funny.
it's so funny, but it's so cringy. It's just perfect.
Cause you know, even like before it starts playing, you know it's gonna be bad. Like the problems that in Lena's voice and everything, like you know it's not gonna be good. But then you just see like how every single thing goes wrong and just how bad it is. And how the audience is just laughing.
Hmm.
Like the audience in the movie is just laughing so hard at it. Like it's you almost feel bad for well you I feel like I did feel kind of bad, just like secondhand embarrassment of like wow that really was just a terrible movie.
Yeah, and they put their heart and soul into it. They're like, we were gonna do. Oh my god.
Ugh. But which also kind of made it cool that like they were able to redo it and make it into the musical, and like in the end, regardless of other stuff that happens, like they it was kind of cool to be able to see them like, oh, this is like kind of everything we'd imagined, and we did it, we did what we set out to do. So
Hmm. Good. They had a story where in the beginning it's you know they're just they're two people wanting to make movies and one lady who wants to be an actress but isn't quite yet, and then it ends with them all essentially making their dreams. I mean, like the one character who doesn't really have a story arc would be Cosmo, or sorry, Donald O'Connor. Whatever.
he yeah, because he kind of makes the joke a few times. He's like, you're the one that has all the money, I have nothing. And like uh oh, what is it when the movie producer guy, the owner of the company, I forgot what his name is, when he's like, oh, you're gonna like we're gonna make movies, and Cosmo's like, oh well, now I'm gonna start suffering and write my
A symphony,
symphony. He's
yeah.
like, no, you're the new music director. He's like, I can stop suffering and write my symphony. Like so
Yeah.
he doesn't have a super strong story, but it was still cool because even in the beginning when Dawn is talking about like their history, like you got to see them, like they grew up together, and like
Hmm.
all the silly things they did and all the shenanigans and all the failed attempts at everything. Like it was still cool. Like first of all that they stuck around. They're still friends. Like
Oh,
they're still
absolutely.
best friends. And then to see like even when the talkie started, like he was still pulled along, and like even in the end, he doesn't get a super strong story, but he still I I liked their friendship. I thought
Hmm.
that was a cool part too.
Yeah,
Like
that was.
he he should have gotten more of a story, I think, but I did really like their friendship.
Hmm. Their friendship was their story essentially. For him, his
Yeah.
journey was I went from being a musician to I went to being to the head of a music chair, but that happens 3/4 of the way through the film. So by the end of the movie, it doesn't really feel like he has a resolution. But for all of the other
Yeah.
characters, like Kathy and Dawn and Lena, they all absolutely have great character progressions and resolutions.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
Especially what happens with Lena. Like, um, I've always was like a little torn on the ending because here's the
Mm.
spoiler part.
Spoilers.
Yeah. The ending ends with Lena on stage in front of the mic faking it with Kathy behind stage in front of a mic actually singing, and then the curtain opens
Mm.
and um, Cosmo walks out and starts singing, and it embarrasses Lena, and she's gone for the rest of the
Mm.
movie. Like that's the last we see
Yeah.
of her. But the
Yeah.
next time, instantly later, we see Kathy, who she's the one who's apparently embarrassed and crying. And I get the idea was like she was angry at Dawn, but
Because he had kind of yelled at her and pretended
mm,
pretended to be angry and whatever else.
yeah, but like it feels like she's running away because she's embarrassed rather than she's angry, and that feels like
Yeah.
a poor portrayal. I guess.
Yeah, cuz I guess I could almost understand it just because she was supposed to get this announcement, and she was supposed to like it was supposed to be a thing that she was going to get credit and it was going to launch her career. And so I guess I could kind of understand it being embarrassed, just because then it seems like she was people might think she was lying, or people might think she like people's perceptions because it wasn't announced formally or because they didn't give her the proper credit. I could understand like being worried about what people might think, or being worried about um just how people might react to this sudden surprise, this unexpected thing. So
Mhm.
I can kind of understand it, but I do also agree. Like like even if she was upset at Dawn, like it was kind of awkward.
Hmm. It's just a handful of awkward things,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's still okay. The most awkward, I don't know
Mm.
why they have decided they had to do the whole thing, is beautiful girl. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, it's super interesting, sure, and the guy has a golden voice. I'm pretty sure
Mm.
that's what we called him, the guy with the golden voice in our production. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know what he's actually credited in IMDb, but
Mm.
that whole thing is like ladies who are at least 16 and are smart and
Ugh.
beautiful and athletic, and they have to wear these clothing.
I know that line when he's like, "You're all beautiful and kissable and at least 16." It's like, "Oh, buddy, please."
Yeah.
Like, please.
Early, earlier times, sure, this was made in the 50s, but still. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple things in Music Man too that I'm like, "Ooh, that didn't age. That didn't age super well." But I mean,
Still, the best part was no, no, no.
yes, yes.
Yeah, that.
No, no, no.
It
Oh
was a
man.
terrible movie.
It was so bad. And then the pearls. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
forgot how annoying the pearls are at the beginning. It's like, what is that? A thunderstorm? No, those are the pearls.
I did like though how
Ugh.
they did that, because to me at least, I'm not sure how they actually did it, because it looked to
Mm.
me like they filmed it once as the either the loud version, or they filmed it once as the silent version, and then they foleyed
Mhm.
over it later. Like my
Yeah.
my thought is, I'm pretty sure they did it as the silent version and only the silent version, and then later on
Mhm.
they went and did everything that they talked about in the movie, like having somebody sing and the yeah.
Yeah.
But they did it with the pearls and the cane and still the best. The squeaky shoes.
Mm. Oh my gosh.
But that was one thing that I found that was a little unbelievable in this movie too. Is we
Yeah.
made a terrible movie. We got 6 weeks to fix it. Now we're professionals.
I know, they're like, "Oh, we have 6 weeks to not only, like," because at first it was like, "Oh, just have her sing it over," or the number of things that they changed, because it wasn't just having her voiceover, it was making it into a musical and writing songs, both the music and lyrics, and
Mhm.
changing the story and recording her over and fixing all the technical issues and
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, 6 weeks is totally a doable time
Totally
frame,
believable.
totally realistic for that. Like,
so if
ugh.
so for nitpicking, there's a lot we can nitpick.
Yeah, we could spend quite a while nitpicking, but
Absolutely.
that was one thing that I thought was funny, like, "Oh, we have 6 weeks, that's plenty of time," or whatever. I'm like,
But
"Is
hey,
it though?"
they've been good morning. Hey, it's a great idea when you've been up all night.
True.
I mean, I do think it's kind of funny
Mhm.
to think about like what we as individuals, and by individuals I mean millennials who are depressed, and the stuff that we come up with and say at like 2 or 3 in the morning without substances. And then I imagine what it's
Yep.
like in the 50s when they're so much more boring. It's like that everyone's in bed by 9 o'clock. That's late for them.
And so for them, like, 1 in the morning, we've stayed up all night. I'm like, "Bitch, I'm not in bed before 1 in the morning ever." Like, what do you mean?
The 1 in the morning is
All
my
night
bedtime.
is literally all night for me is literally till, like, 8 in the morning.
Mhm.
Like,
That's old. But yeah, they're 1 in the morning, and they came up with this crazy idea to turn their horrible movie into a musical, and it worked. And they all lived happily ever after.
I
It,
do love when she starts getting Lena starts getting mad at the very end. She's like, "I want to make a speech." And they're all like, "No, no, no." And then they're like, "Wait. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, make a speech." And everyone's reactions, they're like, "What just happened?" That was I did think that part I like that part.
That was one of the best parts. Absolutely. You reap
It's
what you
like, "You don't
sow.
sound like you did." Like,
Sing for
what is
us.
this? Yeah.
So that kind of made me angry though. Like she walks out, and of
Mm.
course she has a different speaking accent, sure. And then they're like, "That's not how you sound. Fucking sing. You're a star, and we're just a mob who's gonna mob mentality you into peer pressure and make you sing."
I was gonna say, yeah, that it is a little like
But
if someone
whatever.
tried to do that in real life, like, no, I'm not singing. What do you no, like,
Oh,
but
resting my throat for my next performance. But yeah, you know, it's the 50s, and they're singing in the rain.
I remember slight side note, just watching him like splash around in the rain. I forgot like just how much fun he looks like he's having. Just like imagine as like a grown adult who is known for I mean, not like every musical is super serious and whatever, but just
Mhm.
like this grown adult and being told just like, splash in the rain, have some fun. Like, cause he looks like he's having fun when he's doing that. So I love that scene. I think that's such a fun scene. Like
Mhm.
I mean, it's an iconic song, but just like watching him in it, it's great.
That was the one like I had saw earlier because I was thinking about the opening sequence where all three of them are in their raincoats and they have their umbrellas and they're actually like walking down the rainy path and like singing. Like I was sitting there and I was like, I wonder how much they're like hating life. They're like, God, this is an awful thing to be filming right now, and you want me to be happy and peppy and like that was all I was wondering. And then you go to the next sequence where he's just like, I'm singing in the rain. Like it's like, oh yeah, he's actually having a good time.
It's actually fun.
So maybe it's not a hard time to be happy while jogging in the rain. Okay. Um, I haven't really got much else to talk about for Singing in the Rain. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I will say, like, just in terms of the songs themselves, um, it's kind of funny because even if you're not super familiar with the show or anything, I do think it's kind of funny in terms of like memorable numbers or like numbers that kind of stick with you or that are super well known. Like "Singing in the Rain" is really the only song that I feel like is super well known from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you and I we know like Moses Supposes and um, excuse me, "All I Do." I always think is funny. Like I know that one, but just in terms of because there's some musicals that have like a bunch of songs that people, even if they're not super into musicals, would recognize at
Mm-hmm.
least. But I feel like "Singin' in the Rain" really only has maybe "Make 'Em Laugh," maybe, but even that, like, just I don't know. I feel like that's the one hit song that everyone has heard of. Because that's the thing is like everyone's heard, even if they haven't seen the show, even if they're not into musicals, like they know the song "Singin' in the Rain."
Mm-hmm.
Um, So I don't know. I always think that's one of the things I always think is funny when watching a musical is just like seeing which songs you either know going into it or even when you're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like after you've seen a show, when you like get up and leave, you're like which songs stick in your head? Like which songs are the earworms that'll stay with you? Um and I feel like it really only has the one. I like all the other ones, but it really only has the one that like stays with you.
Mm-hmm. Like for me, like everyone knows "Singing in the Rain."
Mm.
Um, Moses supposes because high school. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Make Them Laugh is another one. But even then,
Yeah.
like, it's not because the song is good, it's because of um Mr. O'Connell and all of his wacky, zany, dancy stunts.
Yeah.
Uh so I don't know any other song that like anyone else. No, I really don't. Like
Yeah.
at least on this one.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm gonna give you your popcorn kernels at this point. So
Yes.
yeah, you get 10 of them. How many would you give to Singing in the Rain?
Um, so I also have to remember to kind of separate it from, my memories of performing it in high school. I have to just think about like the actual movie. Um,
It is hard to
I
separate nostalgia sometimes.
would. I
Dev
know.
never does. That's
Um,
part of the casualness of him. Like, I'm a casual. I can base it off of my love for comic books. And I'm like, fuck you.
Fair enough. Um, I would say because part of it is, it has aged. As much as I love it, like it has aged in terms of, um, and this is as the like not technically you inclined person when it comes to film. Like even I can tell like it's aged with some of the actual film
Mhm.
aspects of it, and um, kind of aged like we said a couple of the references and all that. Um,
Every one of the
I'm
action
definitely
sequences that they showed was awful, but you know, whatever.
it was so bad. Um, I feel like I would have to give this one like a 6.5, I think. Cuz I do really like it. I do think it's a lot of fun. I would recommend people watch it. Like if you've never seen it, like watch it once.
Mhm.
And it definitely does, like I remember this as a kid. Of course there's some nostalgia in actually performing it, but like the actual movie, like I'm a huge fan of Gene Kelly. I think Debbie Reynolds is adorable. Um and so I it is a good movie to me. Um it's not one of my favorite musicals. It's like we said, like the music's fun, but there aren't too many like really impressive songs.
Mm.
The dancing is definitely fun. But yeah, so I would say like 6.5. Like definitely watch it once if you've never seen it. But it's not one uh that I'm absolutely in love with.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I would probably give it myself like a 5.5 because there's nothing
Sure.
wrong with this movie at all. Totally fine, totally good. I
Yeah.
watch it because it's a fun time. Like if you have a child who's never seen this, they would probably enjoy it, even if they like don't enjoy watching movies or TV show. Like, I mean, if they enjoy watching or playing video games, like they might enjoy this. Maybe, who knows?
It's there's I feel like there's enough in it, even if you're a kid and you may not understand all the nuances or the whatever else, like between the dancing and the silliness of it, like
Hmm.
I think anyone could enjoy it at least once.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So, oops, I've been hitting buttons over here and I messed up the stream, but it's okay. So,
Uh-oh.
um, you gave it a 6.5. I gave it a five and a
Yep.
half, which gives it an overall rating for the two of us of a 6. Woo!
And I feel like that's pretty fair.
Mhm.
Like it's still a good movie. I feel like part of that for me, like I said, is just its age. Um Although
Definitely
that being
aged.
that being said, I'm not a fan of remakes, so I probably would give anything if they remade this. I'd probably give it an even lower score. But
But then they throw in people like let's who's popular in the uh obviously it would have to have Lin Manuel Miranda.
Anna
Um
Kendrick,
I was thinking Adina whoever
Idina
sings
Menzel,
yeah, Adina Menzel.
yeah,
Um,
I they made honestly, I know we haven't gotten to Music Man yet, but they did make a remake of Music Man, and I want to burn it to the ground. I want to smash every single copy of the new Music Man.
what year did the new
Anyway,
Music Man?
it was like early thousands, I think. So it's not even like no, the last couple
Oh
of years.
yeah,
I think it was like early
2003
thousands.
with Matthew
Yeah,
Broderick.
should burn them all, and destroy every evidence of it.
What's
I'm not a
this?
fan of remakes.
Well, there was a remake in 2007 of The Music Man as well. But this one looks like it is not a musical.
What's the point of the Music Man if it's not a musical? And the funny part is, even I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the 2003 remake of Music Man had Kristen Chenoweth, and she is one of my absolute favorite musical people ever. And I still hated the movie. Like I love her to death, but I still hated it. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted.
That's no problem. So, let's get into it. Let's start talking about The Music Man, which
Okay.
was released in 1962 with a. I'm gonna try this again this time. Uh, with a budget of. Oh, it doesn't say how much it made. Damn it! Curse you, Dev. Yeah, this one says it was a budget of $4.2 million, and doesn't say how much it made. You know, made by Warner Brothers, and I gotta say, I enjoyed this one a little more than Singing in the Rain. Though my one
Same.
complaint is this is 2 hours and 30 minutes long.
Yeah, I forgot how long this one was. It's which isn't it's right about the right length for a normal musical. Like 2.5 is right about normal for an actual in-person musical. But for a movie, it's pretty long.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I forgot how long this movie was. I was like, wow, I still have an hour to go. And
Yeah.
we are barely into the relationship portion of this movie.
Yeah.
But everything else that this movie had was great. I
Yeah.
loved this movie. Watching it again and like reliving it. Robert Preston is a great Harold Hill,
Oh, I
especially.
love him.
Yeah, it's just everything about that performance was great, absolutely magnifying, and like you watch the movie to watch him, 100%.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Like
um,
he has this, just as a slight side note, like it's awesome to me watching this back cuz like it's been a while, but it's awesome cuz he has this like um he has this face that like he's not a bad person. Like
mhm.
he has this like kind of wholesome kind of like good guy face, and yet he still has this like undercurrent because I mean he like at the beginning he's supposed to be this sleazy like using everyone and cheating and stealing
I was
and
about to
lying,
say he
whatever,
was the
but
sleazeball that
like
all the other sleazes hated.
yeah, but it's like it's so funny because just looking at his face, like I feel like personally, like I feel like he has such like a wholesome face, but then he's such a good actor because you can see like in those moments. Because like I said, he's not. I wouldn't say he's like a bad person,
Mhm.
like, but you can see in his face the moments when he's like thinking of something conniving or thinking of something, and he just gets this like little bit of like
There's a
evil in his
smirk.
eye, but like
Yeah,
it's I don't know. I love him so much. I think he plays this character incredibly.
absolutely. I loved watching him, and like like you said, you could see him in the background, and he'll like come up with an idea, and you could see it in his eyes, and it's just like, oh
Yeah.
wow, it's so good. Um, Marion, played by Shirley Jones, was
Mhm.
good as well. I loved her singing; it was beautiful.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna say that I'm not 100% a fan of her character development. Like this movie has the same problem as the last movie did, which was like I'm a lady, so I just kind of have to swoon over the main character. Especially too because she's like, the whole beginning is her being like, I don't trust you. I don't trust any
Mhm.
man, basically. I
Mhm.
have evidence against you, but my heart says no.
I love musicals, but I will say the one thing with most golden age musicals especially, that's pretty much every story, is the girl especially doesn't like the guy, and then all of a sudden she's in love with him.
Yeah,
Like
just
all of a
suddenly.
sudden it just like they might have like a scene or something that shows them in this one it's like they might have a scene or two cuz even at the end of Marion the Librarian song like she still is not a fan of him.
I was supposed to say,
But
yeah.
they have the one scene which is supposed to be the song of him like wooing her. But they have the one scene with what is it? Winthrop, and
Mhm.
it's like and then all of a sudden she's like,
She loves
"Oh,
him.
well, yeah, like, oh, well, maybe he's not so bad." And then the next scene where nothing else has happened since then, it's like, "Oh, well, now I love him." It's
Mhm.
like as as much as I love musicals, like that is definitely a reoccurring theme.
Yeah, like that was actually something I wanted to bring up. The freaking Winthrop
Oh
thing.
god.
Like, he doesn't talk because he has a lisp, and that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
the reason he starts talking is not because he wants to portray that he actually likes Miss Professor Hill and doesn't want him to get tarred and feathered, but because the Wells Fargo wagon is coming down the street, and that something that boy will break his vow of silence for. And sure, I get the point. It's supposed to be that it's his music instruments on its way. He's so excited. Oh my goodness, bands. I remember being that young and being excited for bands, but
Gosh.
it doesn't work for me in that instance because it's, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't speak, but the Wells Fargo wagon coming down the street.
Gosh. I will say random side note again to high school. I remember those two kids that we had in the play, they were so cute.
Absolutely.
They
I'm
were so cute. The ones that played Amaryllis and Winthrop.
I was just thinking
They were
about
fun.
that too because I was like, who plays Amaryllis in our high school version? Because if it was supposed to be someone who's the same age as somebody else, and then like, yeah, I'm just imagining like Raquel being
Oh my
her.
god.
Yeah, like, yeah,
No, those were the ones that we had the actual kids come from one of the elementary schools.
good.
They were the kids of someone in the orchestra or something.
That sounds right to me.
They were yeah, they were related to someone that was a part of it. But yeah, they were actual children. And they were I remember how like excited they were to be like, "Oh, we're part of this high school production." And they were so excited and so cute.
So I just, wow. Do you know who Winthrop is without looking at his name or anything like that?
Mm.
He's Ron Howard, which
I'm really bad with names.
no worries. Ron Howard is known for he's the narrator in Arrested Development. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else he's um trying to see.
I was gonna say you have the person that doesn't really watch movies or
I know.
TV
I'm
shows
trying
on
to see,
here.
like, this is something I see a bunch of stuff that I've seen him in, but I'm like, I don't think she's seen that. I'm pretty sure she hasn't seen that. He was in MASH.
I do know Mash. Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Trying to think what else has he done. He directed Solo. He directed the Da Vinci Code.
Oh, okay.
He directed Backdraft.
Okay, yeah, I do recognize his older man face.
Yeah, like A Beautiful Mind. He was in that, but not as anything
Okay.
important. He's definitely a guy that once you look at his picture, you're like, I've seen him before.
Yeah, yeah. Like I recognize the. It is funny. Most of his filmography is directing, but no, yeah, I definitely recognize. Excuse me.
Let's see here. Though I gotta say, Amaryllis, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
Eh, probably my least favorite character.
Amaryllis.
Yeah.
Amaryllis.
Amaryllis. Um, Probably my least favorite actor in the movie, but child actor doing her best.
She. I was gonna say she. Yeah. Personality wise, I always thought she was kind of weird because like the first time you see her is like she seems to be making fun of his lisp, and then the next scene she's like, I'm in love with him and I'll love him forever, and
Yeah.
it's just what.
Hmm.
Like, child, calm down.
And he
But
never
yeah.
talks to me. Uh, I do gotta say, I loved the Buffalo Bills as the school board.
Oh my gosh, they're so fun.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Though,
just.
go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, just I love that the first scene, like before they start singing, they just immediately start like ragging on each other, making fun of each other, whatever. And then he like teaches them sing. He's like, "You'll never see one of those four without the other." She's like, "They've hated each other for 15 years," and then just singing brings them together.
Yeah, I don't sing. Singing's just talking slowly. It's fine.
Just sustained talking.
Yeah. And then they're never apart. They never have a solo
Mhm.
decision ever again. And
Yeah.
anytime they go to do something, they're distracted by music. So,
I see that's one of the things like that I always think is funny about him. You can tell Harold Hill. You can tell like every time he's like, "Oh, I need to distract them or something," or like, "Oh, I need to slip away," or whatever. Like that's how you can always see the look in his eye when he's about to like distract them with a song or spin them away or something.
mm. That part of it is also like the unbelievability of the movie too, though, because he's supposed to be here for 4 months.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, 4 weeks. Sorry, he's supposed to be here for four
4 weeks.
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 months. He's supposed to be there for 4 weeks, and it makes me think like every day of the week he's supposed to be dodging these people and being like, "Hey, let me tell you about this song I like," and they're like, "A musical."
Basically, yeah.
And they're all supposed to be grumpy, angry people. But as soon, I like that's one thing that I love about this movie though is the story that it tells. Like they're all grumpy, angry people, and sure, this guy's
Hmm.
supposed to be a con artist, but he brought joy to this town of grumpy, angry people. You remember what it was like a month ago? No, apparently not. It was awful.
And I say the number of times when like I mean when he first gets off and he sees like the welcome that he gets like is very gruff and we're Iowans, we don't want you here and blah 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 whatever. But then also like the things that the townspeople mention, they're like, "Oh, do you remember how exciting it was when the chicken laid an egg with 3 yolks in it? That made the newspaper." Or the one time they're like, "I haven't seen them this excited since what's his name laid on a mat without moving for 3 hours. That was super exciting." It's like you can tell like they don't have any like they're gruff and kind of rude to outsiders, but like there's nothing going on in
Yeah,
this
there's
town before
no
he
joy.
came. Like, oh
I
gosh.
I've almost started laughing at one point too because I feel like there's a scene in this movie that inspired Footloose almost because
Oh, with the what's his name? The one teenager that like kind of gets in trouble at the beginning and he pulls aside. He's like, "Hey, like I need you to make something for me."
mhm.
I forget what his name was, but yeah, no, I think I know what.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then it's right the part that I'm thinking of specifically is towards the end where they're supposed to do their Gratian Urn performance, but all the kids were like,
Yeah.
"We want to dance," so then they got
Yep.
Footloose, Chub Poopy.
Now, okay, now I kind of want to hear a mashup actually of those two.
Don't
That'd
get
be
me
fun.
tempted. We'll commission somebody.
There you go.
Sorry, I know my mind's going crazy with that. Shapoopy, shapoopy. No, not happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, that was all fun and dandy, and it's just weird how he's always in the public eye but always trying to dip away at the same time and always gets away with it. But a movie's got a movie. um
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny. The other part of the 4 weeks that I think is funny is like he says the 4 week timetable is because that's how long it takes for the uniforms to get there. But it's like he also has to go around and convince like basically every person in town to sign up for this. It's like, what are you going to talk to the entire town on the first day that you're there so that every single uniform's ordered at the
mhm.
same time so they all get there at the same time. Like one of those kind of,
Yeah.
ignore the details. But
Everyone was convinced as soon as he walked in, because
mhm.
Pool is the devil.
I did, oh my gosh, the one scene that I kind of forgot that made me laugh when I rewatched it. Um uh what was it? The constable. I had to
Okay.
think of the name. When the constable is about to pull away the troublesome kid that lit off the firecracker, and he tells Hill, he's like, you're pretty slick, but you made a couple mistakes. He's like, oh, what mistakes? He's like, the mayor owns the billiard hall and that new pool table. He's like, oh, and what's my other mistake? He's like, that girl you just sent the boy up with is the mayor's oldest daughter. And just the look on Hill's face, like, oh, like that, for some reason, that one just got me. Because like the constable, like he can see because he obviously can see at least a little bit of what Hill is doing,
Yeah.
but he obviously doesn't think he's like malicious or anything. But just the fact that he's like, here are two little holes in your plan, and Hill's like, oh no.
He's like, I gotta
Like,
figure that stuff out.
I don't know why. I just thought that scene was so funny.
Mhm.
But
I kind of wish instead of it being the constable that tells him that, it was Marcellus
mm.
who tells him that. Because
I'm gonna say it would have fit a little bit more, I
mhm,
think, but for
because
some reason, just the old guy saying it was funny.
it was kind of funny. Uh, I did like though. One thing that they do to tell a story is all the
Mm.
salesmen are wearing the same type of hat. So yeah, they're on
Yeah.
the train, and that train sequence is such a fun little intro. Um,
Oh gosh.
and then they introduce Marcellus, who's wearing the exact same hat as all the other characters, and you're like, oh, I get it.
Hmm.
I understand. Though, it makes me wonder, like, what was he doing there in the first place again? Like, was he no longer being a sales scammer and decided to be a mechanic until he met Harold? Like,
I was gonna say because they kind of reference like a few times they kind of reference their history together. I'm like, oh, I remember when when we were doing this scam or in this area, whatever. Um,
they even go
and so I
talk.
don't know. It
They address each other by different names too. So,
Yeah, Gregory and no, I think he calls him Marcellus from the beginning. At
okay.
least I don't know about the last name, but I think Marcellus was. But yeah, he calls Harold Hill Gregory.
Hmm.
And then he's like, no, 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 I'm Professor Harold Hill now.
Yeah.
But
Professor.
I do, I do kind of appreciate. I mean, mostly just as um a woman in nowadays that gets tired of stupid like catcalling and whatever else. I do appreciate how efficiently she shuts him down at first. Like every single line he
Just
tries, everything.
side
Did
stuff.
you drop your handkerchief? No. Like, oh, did you hear about? No. Like just immediately and just like, I thought I always appreciate that.
Stand up
I
for
mean,
yourself.
again,
Love it.
I was gonna say again, like you said, she then very quickly falls in love with him for some reason. But I do think it's funny when she's suspicious of him, and she's suspicious of him for quite a bit of the movie, or very like unfriendly and whatever. Like I do think it's funny how she just shuts him out so
Hmm.
immediately.
But that's the part that's kind of like I love that he shuts her out. She shuts him out right away, and like it's so.
Mm,
Though I kind of wish she loosened up quicker, almost, because then it would make it a little more believable.
yeah,
Especially because,
yeah,
like you said earlier, she wasn't 100% for him even after the librarian song, Marion the
yeah.
Librarian, and
Which I feel like she could have at least like kind of found him funny or charming, even if she didn't believe him,
Hmm.
she could have at least found him like a little more likable as a person,
Yeah.
a little more whatever.
One of my complaints with that whole sequence too, with the Marion Librarian song, is she's
Mm,
like saying no and flustered the whole time up until somebody who isn't Harold starts to dance with her. And as soon as it's
yeah,
somebody else, she's like, oh, okay, la-di-da-di-da, I'm having fun, oh boy.
yeah.
So it just inconsistency, man. I feel like the whole time she should have been like, no, stop it, stop it, and then maybe by the end, kind of okay with it.
I was gonna say, kind of, if it had turned into if it had gone from her being like, oh, well, I'm just kind of uptight and it's not just towards Harold, and then kind of loosen up through the song, and then by the end of the song, she's a little bit more calm or fun, especially towards Harold. Like if they had kind of, but yeah, the going kind of back and forth between that was a little weird,
Hmm.
but
Especially too, like her whole thing, her story is she fell in love with the guy and he passed away, and she hasn't found the right person since then, essentially.
mm,
And totally believable. I'm okay with that. Totally
yeah,
fine. Um, it's just how like sudden I like how drastic she changes that, or like how do I explain this. Um, she goes from, like I said, being all no and rejective and stuff to being like literally a teenage girl who,
yeah,
instead of being all bubbly like the teenage girl who's like, we can't do anything salacious, I'll see you there in 2 hours. Like that's the only difference, is she doesn't say it vocally, is how it feels.
yeah, yeah. That's fair because it. I know, because Harold even has a song, an entire song about how he um prefers experienced women, and how he like, even at the very beginning when he first gets into town, Marcellus points out the mayor's wife, but he just says like, oh look, there she blows or something, and he's like, oh well, I'll do it, but I won't be happy about it, and it's like he just I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
he, I want to say, and I guess kind of flipping onto Harold's side of it,
Mm-hmm.
like he goes from like, oh, just, womanizer, lying, sleazy, whatever, and like sure she's very pretty, um, but he also like changes very quickly.
Yeah, I was
Like
gonna
he,
bring that up
because
next.
even Marion the librarian, like it all feels like part of just his scheme still. It doesn't feel like at that point that he's actually even interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
Like it still just feels like part of, he's trying to seduce her as part of his plot. Like even if he finds her attractive, but like he very quickly also goes from on his side like pursuing her as part of this to all of a sudden just like, oh, now he's singing goodnight my someone to her cuz now he's all of a sudden in love with her too.
Mm-hmm. That I was gonna bring that up too. The whole time, the whole entire time, up until the last 20 minutes, he is that womanizer. And then when she's changing in the bedroom so they could spend more time together, because he gotta pay his bill, as in he's done this for months. He's got to have sex with the lady before he leaves. Weeks, sorry.
Mhm.
Um, saying months, it's weeks. Uh, it's like, I gotta have sex with this woman before I get out of here. But it's
Mhm.
once he sees her or hears her singing, complete change of heart.
Like, yeah, it's like, oh,
But it's
all of a sudden I'm in love with her.
Yeah, but it's like it's supposed to be implied a little bit earlier. But even then, that a little bit earlier is 5-10 minutes in earlier in the 2.5 hour film. So it's like, who's the salesman? Are you or her? And it's obvious that he at this point should be like, cool, I've hook, line, and sinker. I'm free to go. Bye bye. I've got 102 other ladies waiting for me. But nope,
Yep.
this is the one that changes him. And then, because this town is full of idiots, All fine.
It's all good.
Uh-huh. Just I've never heard a single note, and the first notes they hear are, of course, awful. But that's my boy, yeah, and absolves him of all his sins.
I know. Because I do understand part of that is like we were saying earlier, like their town just had nothing before. So even though it's terrible, like seeing that change in the children and having all this excitement and having all of that, like I can understand at least a little bit, like, oh, they eh, even if they realize, like, oh, this feeling or this like change in us is worth more than whatever. But like also like he still like lied and tried to cheat you, and even though like you may have good feelings now, like he still planned to do like very mean things to you.
Yeah,
Like
like I'm curious what the next step of like the Music Man 2 is him going to college and trying not to be scammed as he learns how to play music.
as he actually learns how to like be a conductor.
Yeah.
Ugh, I
Oh.
don't know. Again, like as much as I love musicals, I'll be the first to admit, like a lot of the stories, not all of them, some of them have like really good, interesting, solid stories, but a lot of, particularly the Golden Age musicals, which both of these fall into, it's very much just like there may be some issues in the background or some other stuff, but like girl doesn't like guy at first and stuff kind of happens and they don't really have any kind of deep bond, and then all of a sudden they're in love,
Mhm.
and then everything's fine in the end.
Yep, everything's fine. I
But
wanted to like if you side talk real fast. I almost
mhm.
wanted to like make the opening graphic that the show, the thumbnail image almost.
Mm.
I wanted it to be the ending of Singing in the Rain, like the billboard, where it was my profile on
Oh
one
yeah,
side and
yeah.
you're on the other.
Mhm.
Because it all ends happily in the end. We got our. It's not Lockwood and Lamont. It's no longer Sreekuff and Dev. It's Sreekuff and Dragon.
Oh gosh, does that mean Dev is Lena?
Yes.
Oh
your
no.
your Dev's voice.
Oof.
Yeah, you get angry
Yeah,
sometimes, but
yeah.
it's okay. If he ever
Oh
watches this,
man.
he's gonna be mad at me. So yeah. I'm not sure what else to talk about really. Got anything else you want to talk about? When it comes to the Music Man?
I mean, I guess just again talk going back to like these are like I don't remember the exact years, but these are very much golden age musicals. And so even when they're performed now, like they still have kind of that sense of nostalgia.
Hmm.
Um both in the music and the stories. So they do still have a special place in my heart. Because I mean these ones along with like what else? Sound of Music, South Pacific, The King and I, all those types of shows. Like they have, and all of those have like the guy again, the guy and girl doesn't like the guy at first, and some things kind of happen that could bring them together, but then all of a sudden they're in love. Um, but no, there is some sense of nostalgia with a lot of these. For me, I know not everyone grows up listening to musicals or watching musicals, but my parents had the like box set of Rogers and Hammerstein, which this one isn't, but had the box set of Rogers and Hammerstein musicals. Um, so these ones do kind of, for better or worse, I do think of my childhood with these types of shows.
I do
So
too, though. I anytime anybody starts talking about either of these two musicals, I immediately reflect back to at least high school for me, maybe
yeah.
even earlier. If we want to talk earlier, things that I remember from earlier would be Mary Poppins or
Mm.
The Wizard of Oz, or was the one I was just thinking of. Better at this point.
But yeah,
Grease.
those types of, what is it?
Grease
Oh,
is the other one I was thinking of. That was my childhood.
That's fair. Um, I was gonna say, and even like, because Wizard of Oz is old. That one's older than either of these. Um, but that's definitely a nostalgic movie, I think, for most people.
So yeah,
Although it
Wizard of
is funny, like, uh, that one does have songs in it, but I
Mhm,
feel like it's not quite as much. Um, like it's still a musical, but I guess just thinking about like the number of songs and like the um emphasis on music, like the difference between something like Music Man and that.
mhm.
But
Like with Music Man, the whole point is that it is a musical that has been adapted from the stage onto film, and
mhm,
it still has all those amazing dancing musical numbers, but it
mhm,
still feels like you're sitting in an auditorium watching a musical number. While with
yep,
like The Wizard of Oz, it it was made in 1939, so it is 13 years older than the music or than Singing in the Rain, and
mhm,
23 years older than the Music Man.
mhm,
But the Wizard of Oz, the music um, is more of like an addition to the story.
yeah,
And in that one, the only thing that I can like the only songs that I remember would be Over the Rainbow
mhm.
and Yellow Brick Road. Probably that's
That one, if I only had a brain, I remember that one.
if I only had a heart.
And I say, but even then, like the Wicked Witch is Dead is a song from that one. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Rub your eyes, get out of bed. Like,
That's what they
so
say?
that one, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, but no, and so it's yeah, it and kind of going into the differences, in my opinion, between like movies that have music in them versus musical movies.
Mhm,
Because like exactly like you said, like watching The Music Man or Singing in the Rain, it feels like you're in an auditorium or you're in a theater and you're watching a stage production that they just happened to record. Um, which is why I also like I mean, these ones were technically literally that recordings of stage productions,
mhm,
but that's why I prefer the older movies of like Into the Woods or Sweeney Todd, because
mhm.
they're actually just recordings of stage musicals as opposed to movie adaptations of a musical.
So you don't like the
Um,
Tim Burton Sweeney Todd, but you like the stage play version of Sweeney Todd?
yes.
Okay.
And I haven't even seen the movie Into the Woods, the new one that came out just a couple years ago, because I know I won't like it as much as the recorded stage production. Because it's like when you're putting on a musical versus when you are making a movie, you have different priorities. Like most of the movie adaptations of musicals that have come out in the last 10, 15 years, um they're okay. But as someone that grew up watching either live musicals or the movie recordings of them, um, I've never like Les Mis.
Mhm,
If I can separate them in my head, the movie version of Les Mis that had all the big names in it, um, it was fine for a movie.
mhm.
But if I were to compare it to the musical, it was absolute trash. Like, I'm sorry, it was terrible.
Okay. I
Like,
don't. I mean, I've heard that same complaint before. So, uh,
yeah. And so, but it's been like that. I can't think of a movie adaptation of a musical that I thought was even as good as an actual stage production. And I don't count like for things like Music Man and Singing in the Rain, these ones to me aren't necessarily movie adaptations.
mm,
Because like I said, they still feel like they're just productions because and I think part of it is because um for types of things like Music Man and singing, um, it feels like they found stage actors and invited them to the screen.
mhm,
Whereas in things like Les Mis, like yes,
Hugh,
those are actors that can
I
sing,
was about to say Hugh Jackman was a
but
stage actor for a while.
and he's one of the better parts of that movie, I would say.
Mhm.
But they, even if they've performed in the stage before, you act differently, and it's a different type of presentation.
Mhm.
Recording for a movie versus um a musical, because it's like, even in going back to Les Mis, which isn't one of our movies, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
like going back to Les Mis, like the actors and actresses, like it felt like during so many of the songs they were trying to like put all this emotion, and they were like cry singing, and they were, it was much less focus on the music, which is really sad, because especially with Les Mis, the music itself has enough emotion, it has enough power. If you just sing the music, like if you get a really good singer to sing the music,
Mhm.
like you can feel everything that it's supposed to make you feel. Whereas in the movie, like what's her name, Anne Hathaway, like during one of the most emotional, in my opinion, one of the most emotional songs in the movie, she's like crying throughout the entire song. She barely sings the song.
Mhm.
And it's like, for me, it feels like that takes away so much from it. Like the actual music in that movie and in so many musicals is good enough on its own. You don't need to just, you don't need to act out the emotion. Just find someone who can sing it,
Mhm.
and you'll have all the emotion you
Mhm.
need. Like it's a different mindset. Like even if, like you said, Hugh Jackman, like even if someone has performed on stage before, they bring a different kind of mindset to um a musical, which should be able to stand on its own two legs, as opposed to recording a movie, which they feel like they have to add something extra, in my opinion. Sorry, there was my rant.
No worries. So, can I ask you? I want your opinion then on three things.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think of the Disney Plus production of Hamilton?
Haven't seen it.
Okay, totally fine.
And that one I haven't even actually, I'll admit, I have not actually even listened to the music.
Okay.
I've heard bits and pieces there, but I did not get into that one. I haven't really listened to it. I know what it's about,
Mhm.
but I don't really know much about it.
Okay. Then the easiest tangent from there then would be In the Heights because they had the
I
HBO
haven't
Max
seen that
movie.
movie either.
Yeah, yeah.
I I'm gonna say, and that one I have heard the music. I have not seen that one live.
Hmm.
That one I have heard the music, but from the glimpses that I have seen, it'll probably be the same. Like the movie, from what I've heard from people, like the movie is fine, but compared to the actual stage production,
Hmm.
yeah.
Fails in comparison. So then the last one. This one might be obvious where I'm going. Cats. You see the Cats movie version?
Not all of it.
You couldn't
I
get
think I
through it.
got I I think I got like 15 minutes.
Okay, you got 15 minutes in or left.
No, 15 minutes in. But
Okay,
that's just
Jesus.
Cats is, oh my gosh. Cats is one of those.
I think part of the reason why people go to see Cats on stage is the physical acrobatic spectacle that it is.
I could see that, yeah.
While
Um
on in the movie, it was not that.
I feel like people watch the movie just to be horrified at
Yeah.
a lot of things. Um gosh. Cats is actually one that my family has kind of always made fun of
Mm.
for um just being that it's such a weird show. And granted, it's not even close to one of the weirdest shows I've heard of. Um Starlight Express.
The
Um
Starlight Express.
oh gosh. But it's honestly, it's not even one of the weirdest ones, but that's never been one that I have ever really had an interest in going to see. Um so I was going to say, I mean, other I'm sorry I haven't seen any of your three.
Ah, it's totally fine.
Um But I mean, I know a bunch of people have seen the movie version, and granted, it's a little bit older now, but Phantom of
Yes.
the Opera. I know a decent amount of people have seen that one, and I would say is that one is one of the better. movie adaptations, that one I will say Phantom is just such a powerful show. Like it's definitely a different experience to see it in person with the
Mhm.
chandelier, with the everything about it. Like that one is just a very loud like not just volume but just a very like in your face impactful
I mean,
show. So that one just has a very different feeling anyway. But
I kind of get chills just with Phantom. Like you hear the
yeah.
ba 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 ba, and you're like, ooh.
See See, and it's funny because that is one that I grew up with. Like
Mhm.
as a child, I remember hearing that soundtrack. That was one I absolutely grew up with. So
Sing for me, my. That's fun times. Okay, I'm gonna since we've kind of gone on such a huge tangent at this point. I'm gonna give you your popcorn kernels for the Music Man.
oh, we didn't, did we?
No, we did
My
not.
bad. Sorry. That was kind of my fault,
It's
probably.
okay. It's all right.
Um, okay, out of 10.
Mm. Tough decisions, I know.
I know, because it's like I don't usually like rate things in any or score things at all. Like it's not usually how I try to think about media that I consume.
If it makes it
Um,
easier for you, normally Dev and I consider a 5 just a perfectly average movie.
mm, hmm. I would say this one's definitely higher than Singin' for me.
Hmm.
Um, for a few reasons. Like I like the characters more. I do like Robert Preston as much as I love Gene Kelly. I do love Robert Preston as Harold Hill. Um, the music is just so fun. Um,
It's funny that you bring up like um, Gene Kelly again because when I
mm,
think of Gene Kelly, I think of Gene Kelly. Like people watch Gene Kelly to watch Gene Kelly. Uh,
yeah.
but in this movie, I don't think of Frank Preston, Hank, whatever,
Robert
Robert. My
Robert Preston.
God, I'm terrible with names. I don't think Robert Preston when I think Harold Hill when I'm watching.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because he Well, and I think that's one of the reasons, slight tangent, and not that I'm stalling of giving my score, but I
mhm,
definitely am. But that's one of the reasons that I think he's so good at it is Robert Preston played Harold Hill in the stage adaptation long before he played the movie.
mhm,
Like he was Harold Hill on stage. I think that's one of the reasons that he's so good at it is like he was able to literally bring that straight from the stage production. It wasn't something like, because I mean, even actors like that's what they do for productions, but I feel like that's why he really did that role well. um just because he had already internalized Harold Hill.
mhm.
um out of 10, I would say I would give this one an 8. I
8.
think, yeah, I really do think it's, especially compared to Singin', but even not compared, like I think it is a really good score. It has multiple, because like we were saying from Singin', like Singin', you only really have the one song that people know.
Mhm,
This one, I feel like there are multiple songs that, like, even if not every single person would know it, there are numerous songs that are at least like somewhat recognizable. And so just from that, this one I feel like has more fun songs that everyone can get into. Um, I am slightly a sucker for band
I
stuff.
I mean, I
So
don't
I do.
blame you.
um but yeah, and overall I just this one is, for me personally, I think this one is just more, not relatable, but just you kind of get into the story more. Maybe it is a little more relatable because the other one is like movie stars and big screen movie stuff that like most people aren't in the film industry and may not necessarily understand. And especially because it's like, oh, with talking pictures are new, like it feels very kind of removed. Whereas this one, like I feel like a lot of people grew up in a small town that there wasn't much going on,
Hmm.
small-minded people, like and seeing this kind of change, like I feel like it is maybe relatable is the right word, but like it's more something that people can kind of get sucked into,
Yeah.
um kind of just relate to more.
And how can
But
you
yeah, I would. Sorry.
how can you not get sucked into a musical where one of the first songs you hear is called 76 Trombones? Like, come on.
Okay, personal bias. Okay.
I mean, there's about 110 too many cornets for my opinion, but
Okay. I mean, when all of them are improvising an octave above the score, yeah, that's
yeah,
fair.
absolutely. Have you ever heard, quick tangent again, of the worst trumpet Christmas, which
Oh no,
it's
I'm
literally
terrified.
it's literally 100 trumpet players. It sounds like just doing "We wish you a Merry Christmas," but like 2 to 3 to 8 octaves higher than they're supposed to. So it's just this
Oh,
awful screaming trumpets.
that's terrifying.
It's amazingly awful. But
Oh my gosh.
back to the Music Man real fast. I'm gonna give it a seven
But
and a half out of 10
okay,
for a lot of the
okay.
same reasons. It does feel a lot more relatable and enjoyable, and I like the music better. And there's definitely more references. Like, um, if you've seen Family Guy, you've seen all of these songs, almost definitely.
Yep.
So, especially Shapoopy. Though,
Fair.
though
But yeah.
Shapoopy makes me think of high school because it makes me think of Shoop, all of the Shoops.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, I got nothing else on these movies here, so I'm gonna move us back to our opening screen here. We're kind of just wrapping up the podcast at this point. Any other
Yeah.
topics you want to talk about? Anything at all that has caught your attention, musical wise, movie world wise?
Um.
Like, are you excited for anything coming out or any recent shows that you loved watching? Or
Um. Well, I mean, do you mean musicals that I've seen recently,
either way,
or?
honestly.
Trying to think of what I have seen recently. Um. Well, I mean, even talking about musicals, like because I mentioned a couple times that these are kind of more golden age. That's one of the things I really like about musicals, or that I think is kind of cool. Is you can kind of tell a lot about um the period that they came from, even just based on either the story or the music or whatever else. And it's kind of cool to be able to like look at this group, and especially comparing all the groups to each other, you can kind of see um how, I don't want to say how musicals have evolved, but you can see the different flavors that
Hmm.
musicals can have. Because I mean, I feel like back in this era when these would have come out, this was kind of the stereotypical format for a musical. Kind of the same format, story, like music is all very pretty similar and whatever else. But one of the things I love about musicals, especially in the last probably like 30 years,
Hmm.
um, just how different they can be. You have rock musicals, you have musicals that cover every kind of topic, and as people discover that like, hey, musicals don't have to just be like either, Phantom or Music Man, like you can have every type of musical, every type of music. They can be offensive, they can be serious, they can be whatever you want them to be. Like that's one of the things I really like about them. And so it's kind of cool to go back and look at these and be like, oh, they have this song about like, oh, the sadder but wiser girl, and they like hee like they can't come right out and say it, and so it's all like these euphemisms, and even that's like scandalous to talk about, like those kinds of things. And then nowadays, like you have some shows that, oh, what is it, 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee is a show, and one of the songs, and it's about what is it, middle school spelling bee, and one of the songs is literally entitled "My Unfortunate Erection," and
That
it's
does make me
and so
think.
it's just funny to me to see like the range that I feel like musical theater has. Um and it's one of the reasons whenever if people ever say when I say like, "Oh, I really like musical theater." They're like, "Oh, I don't like musicals." I'm like, I would bet quite a bit of money that I could find at least one musical that almost anyone would like. Just because there's so many different types. And not like you're going to love all of them. But I would bet big money that there's a musical out there that anyone would like.
Let's see.
So,
Um, Speaking of which,
mhm.
musical I want to watch that I haven't seen yet or heard any of the music of, the Book of
Mm.
Mormon. Like
I
everyone
I
loves
know
that one.
I know all the music to that one.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I know all the
I
music.
mean, I bet it's relevant to your life, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I want to see that one so bad. Um, oh my gosh, that one I was introduced to while still in high school. Actually, you know the people that introduced me to that one. One person in particular. Um, he introduced me to that one, and I fell in love with it. And that's always been on my list of things to watch.
One I almost started watching, but I didn't. It's brand new. Came out. Came out. It doesn't say the month. It came out this month. I'm gonna say, um, Annette on Amazon Prime. It is an Adam Driver
That sounds
musical.
familiar. Oh, I've heard the name. I don't know anything about it, but I've heard the name.
If I read the
Um,
synopsis here, it says Henry is a stand-up comedian with a fierce sense of humor who falls in love with Anne, a world-renowned opera singer. Under the spotlight, they form a passionate and glamorous couple. With the birth of their first child, a mysterious little girl with an exceptional destiny, their lives are turned upside down.
okay.
Yeah,
See, it's kind of funny. Even from that, I'm like, that could go a lot of different ways.
yeah.
Does she have magic powers? Is she the devil? Is she like all kinds of fun things? Um, Interesting.
No, that's a musical I'll probably end up watching sometime soon. But it's a musical movie. It's a drama. It's not a dramedy. It's a dramical. It's jellicle.
See, and that's the funny thing. Going back to again, like movie versions of musicals and whatnot, is like the ones that I really get maybe not angry, but the ones that I kind of have a personal beef with are generally the adaptations into movies. Whereas if a movie is just, by itself, like has music in it, like that's fine. I'll usually still enjoy it. Like bad example, but La La Land. Like I didn't like that one for other reasons, but like that type of thing where it's not an adaptation of a musical, it's just happens to be a movie with some music in it. Like those are fine.
That's when La La
Um
Land won like best musical that year in the Emmys, didn't it?
yeah, something like that. That one won a few awards, which like as a movie, like it's fine. I didn't like it for story reasons. Um
Yeah, in
but the
2017.
music in it was fine, but again, that's not I wouldn't count that as like a m- uh movie musical adaptation because it
Mhm.
wasn't like it was never a stage play. And so that one like I can kind of give a pass to not having the same quality of music as a stage production. Um just cuz it's a different type of thing.
Yeah, it. Yeah, I get you. So, like, what are your opinions on something like what was? Fuck, I can't remember the name of it now. I keep going to High School Musical, but it's not High School Musical. This is awkward.
Pitch Perfect?
There we go.
Oh,
That
what's
one.
my opinion on Pitch Perfect?
Yeah. What's your opinion on Pitch Perfect? I'm
Oh,
curious.
I love Pitch
Okay.
Perfect. I think it's cuz that's the thing is like it has lots of music, it has lots of singing, and for the type of singing it is, it's great. Like I love those. Like I think they're a lot of fun. Um,
The modern
but
jukebox
they're
musical.
yeah, I was gonna say it's a modern um yeah, a modern jukebox musical, which is absolutely fine. But my and I do like Pitch Perfect. I love the first one. I've seen the second one a couple times. I haven't seen the third one.
Okay.
Um, but the difference for that for me, because like I said, even okay, kind of tangentially related, just because of Anna Kendrick, like Trolls. Did you ever see that movie?
I did not.
Um, surprisingly, I really liked the soundtrack, the songs in that one, because that one I would call like a kids musical because they have a bunch of songs that they sing like in the movie. And surprisingly, I really liked that one. But the similarities between those two is they're singing all like modern songs. They're
Mhm.
not trying to sing musical songs, or they're not trying to sing um in a like stage production manner, because the way
Mm.
that you sing like a pop song versus something like Phantom or even something like Music Man, you sing it differently.
Mhm.
And so if they were which is my main problem with things like the movie versions of Les Mis or Into the Woods, whatever, like even if they are not bad singers, or even if they're good singers, you still sing differently. And the focus isn't on the music as much, which for me, like having good singers is pretty much the most important part of a musical, like because the music is supposed to tell the story, the music is supposed to be the emotion. It's not supposed to be like flashy movie effects or how big of a name of movie actor you can get. Like musicals should, in my opinion, be like the best singers first more than basically anything
Mhm.
else. um because it's a different type of singing as opposed to Pitch Perfect. Like because like I said, Anna, I love Anna Kendrick, I think she's great. um but it's she's a very good like pop type singer.
Mhm.
Not, in my opinion, not really a uh Broadway type singer.
Makes sense.
But
You ever watch iCarly?
yes, many years ago.
I was about to say a lot of people probably watched that many years ago.
Yeah.
The only reason I bring it up is the only person that I could think of that I would probably like to see star in a musical who's
Mm.
popular would probably be Ariana Grande. I think, like, I like her voice, and it's definitely more of a poppy voice, but
Mm.
I think it would do fairly well in type music.
I was gonna say, and even then, like I was saying, there's every type of musical that you can imagine for every type of genre. So like there are musicals where more pop type voices can fit. Um, and to be honest, yeah, Ariana Grande is a fantastic singer. Like she 100% is a good singer. She has skill. Um, I'm just trying to think of like what role I would put her in.
No idea at this point. I just like her
I don't know.
voice.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. But no, she's a good. And even like going back to like you were saying, like yes, Hugh Jackman is a good singer, and I would have loved to see him on Broadway. He probably did very well. But just I feel like that was probably more of the directing
Mhm.
um that kind of took away from his actual skill.
Mhm.
Um because even like I said, I still haven't seen the Into the Woods adaptation, and I don't know that I ever will. Um because those, from what I know, those are all very good singers, like Anna Kendrick and Chris, whichever of the Chris's. Like they're supposed to be pretty good singers. But again, they are actors who can sing
Mhm.
instead of singers first. And I feel like from the trailers and clips that I have seen, like they definitely make it more about the acting telling the story and giving the emotion rather than the music.
Okay.
Which again, just personally, I think for most musicals, the music is what should be the main story and emotion conveyor,
Absolutely.
in my opinion.
So one
So
last question before we kind of have to wrap up the show.
okay.
Um, You see The Star Is Born with Lady
Is that the
Gaga?
one? Oh yeah, no, I did not see that one.
I think you might like that one.
Um,
Though it's definitely more of the whole like um it's definitely more of a movie with music in it, but I like the
Fair.
music, especially when it comes to like everyone's heard the song that is popular on the radio from it. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
at this point the yeah, that one. You know,
Can I get a
copyright claims.
recording of that?
Well, yeah, totally. I can as
Yeah.
soon as it's not on YouTube, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I could be a singer.
Mm,
That's
going
why
Broadway.
yeah, that's totally why I am not a music teacher and ended up going into film. It's because I can sing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But no, that's one that I'd be interested in seeing. I haven't yet, but I don't have anything against it. And from what I heard, a lot of people did like it. So
I don't see why not. Like, thinking about the musicals that we've watched on this, we've done
mm.
Repo, the Genetic Opera. We've done Hamilton and In the Heights, and there's a couple of like we've done Moana, but
Mm.
I wouldn't really consider Disney musicals. That's just
There,
me.
see, even okay, slight tangent for that. Even um, musicals that are adaptations of movies is even its own category because then a lot of Disney movies have become musicals.
Mm,
A lot of them have been adapted for stage, and it's even funny because even those ones, like because one of my favorites is Beauty and the Beast. I absolutely love like Disney version and the live stage production. I've seen that one multiple times.
what about the live
Um,
action Emma Watson version?
Again, that one I have problems with.
Okay.
um, but even that, it's funny because like watching the Disney version, it's the one I grew up on. And so I definitely have a lot of nostalgia, and the music is absolutely wonderful for it. But I will say, even for that one, like the musical version in my mind is so much better.
Mhm,
It's just because most of the Disney movies, like I'm a huge Disney fan, and I'll admit that right now, especially Disney musical movies. Um, but even those ones that are definitely musicals, um, or that are definitely um well known for their music in the movie world, like um, I just still feel like there's another layer or just more emotion with the actual stage adaptations.
mhm,
Because I mean, like a lot of the songs in Disney movies, I feel like are just kind of like more cute, fluffy songs. Like there'll usually be like a bad guy song that like ooh like bad guy, spooky, whatever. Um, but even with like Beauty and the Beast, they most of the adaptations for stage they add a few songs and they'll change a bit here and there. Um, but even with Beauty and the Beast, like I feel like the stage production just adds so much more depth. And to all of the musical adaptations that I've seen of the different Disney movies, um, well, I guess Anastasia isn't Disney, but I've seen that one. That's one of my favorites too. But all of them just add so much more to this story. Like,
mhm.
because the Disney one is very, it's Disney. It takes out a lot of the super dark stuff and it makes it very kid friendly and like the cute little songs that you kind of bounce around to, whatever. Um, but the musical adaptations, I feel like it allows them to add more of the dark stuff back, more of the intense music that because even Beauty and the Beast, like I think it has all of the same songs. It just changes, like some of the wording and adds more.
Mm.
But it's so much better in my opinion.
I was gonna make a joke about Mufasa's death in the stage version of Lion King, but I've never seen the stage version of Lion King, so I'm sure.
That's one I have not seen.
Okay,
I have not seen the stage version of Lion
I
King.
have, however, listened to a cast who performed the stage version of Lion King, singing the opening music. And
Mhm.
I gotta say, I preferred that a lot more than like just they're not even in costume. It's just them recording themselves on a cell phone on the plane as they're flying, and they're practicing.
Yep. I've
Like,
seen that recording.
yeah, like I love that song and that like just that recording. That's freaking great. But then like you listen to
Mhm.
the Disney version, the Lion King movie, and it's like, well, I
Mhm.
mean, it sounds cool, but it doesn't have that
Like
like
it's good, but
spirit,
mhm.
the
Which
energy.
is again one of my favorite things about theater is like you can just put so much more into it cuz like in recordings for movies and I mean I haven't ever recorded or filmed a movie or anything like that. So I mean correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of feels um like as someone that consumes um the post product, like the finalized song or performance, it almost feels like you because you have to repeat it so many times in the microphone to like make sure it's right and then they kind of edit things and the adjust levels and um I feel like you don't get a um quite as authentic a feel because I
Mm,
mean even though in a production like yeah you're doing the same thing every night but you get to express your different feelings because even like as an actor every time you perform you bring something a little bit different like even if you're saying the same words and doing the same blocking whatever like you as an actor you bring your own personal feelings and emotions like whatever that day like you're going to put on a slightly different performance
mm,
and I feel like that's one of the things that's really cool about live theater is even if you go to the same theater and you see the same show every single week, it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to get something different out of it every time.
mm,
Whereas with films and shows and movies, like you because they have to get it, as perfect as they can because they only are going to play it once in the movie, like I feel like you don't get as deep because I feel like the people are more focused on like, oh, okay, we have to get it like as perfect as we can, as opposed to live theater. It's never gonna be perfect when you're doing it just live. Like
mm,
your voice might crack or like it's gonna be a little different every time. Um, Whereas in a movie, every time you watch the movie, it's gonna be exactly the same. And so and I'm kind of just rambling right now, but like you know what I mean. Like
I get you. Yeah.
it's a different it's I don't know. Seeing a musical, even if you see it 100 times, it's gonna be 100 different shows. Whereas any movie that you watch, it's gonna be the same movie over and over.
Mm. Every single time, you know what to expect.
Hmm.
I get you. All
Listen,
right.
I could rant about musicals for a long time.
All right. So let me wrap this up then, really fast here.
Yep.
Um, Normally we talk about a bit of news in the movie world. Um, I'm gonna kind of skip that portion, except for um, anyone who's a Marvel fanboy. Be excited because they released the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer for today. I'm pretty sure it was leaked on the internet, and then they're like, "Screw it, let's just release it." So
Ouch.
yeah, so that's out there. So if you want hype for the next Spider-Man movie, I don't like trailers, so I don't watch them. But there you
They
go.
spoiled so much.
Exactly. I don't watch trailers for that damn reason. And they temper your expectations because they try to show you the best moments in the film. So it's like, yeah, expect this, and then you get in the movie and it doesn't have like even in the trailer, it has like a different emotion than you'll get in the movie. So it's
Hmm.
completely different than what you're expecting when you walk in. So I go in there with no expectations.
Yep. Makes sense.
And then for next week's movies, you're not going to be here, I know, but you're always welcome to join us if you want to. Um, Next week we're
Wink,
watching on the
wink.
yeah, wink wink nudge nudge. Everyone go tag Dragon on Twitter that she did great and should be on here more often. Uh, um, Next week what we're watching for the show, we're doing the original Candyman movie made in 1992, and then we're gonna do the new fangled 2021 version that's coming out in a few days.
Again with the remakes.
Yeah,
So.
so tired of them.
I mean, I guess for this type of show, it's pretty easy material. Like, oh look, old version, new version.
Exactly. Yeah, we do that
But
all the time, and I like it and I hate it at the same time because
yeah.
a lot of the times we'll talk about like the only difference is that the new version has better graphics. A lot of times we'll be like the older version has better special effects and it looks better because they're actual physical effects rather than digital effects. And um but hey, it's all done in CG so you could do more crazier things, but then it doesn't look real and yeah.
the very small tangent. I was talking to my brother about the original Lord of the Rings movies versus the Hobbit movies, and it's like, dude, the original Lord of the Rings effects were incredible, especially for that time. But even looking back, they're still incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in my opinion. And then you look at the Hobbit ones, and it's like it's all just CGI. Like, meh.
It's actually kind of funny
Like,
with the Hobbit movies or the most recent 4K remastering.
mm,
What they ended up doing is they finally fixed most of the effects. Well, fixed is how I'll put it, with air quotes, because
mm-hmm.
they changed. What the problem that they did with the Hobbit is they adapted the filmmaking and the movie making techniques as movie and film editing techniques progressed. So each
Mm-hmm.
movie was made differently, and
Yeah.
they finally gone through with the most recent 4K releases of the batch to make it so each movie looks like they were edited the same.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see that just to see if it really makes a difference. But they still look terrible comparatively to the original Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Which is funny because they're what, 20 years apart?
Hmm. I
But
freaking hate thinking of original and then they're not even remakes, the remasterings of the original Star Wars. It's illegal to see the original theatrical version of the film, but the modern versions suck because of all the CG edits. So good times.
anyway, is that enough tangents for one show?
Yeah, we could probably call it quits here.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot to tell you this before the show. You
Mm.
have the honor of having the last line, and normally the way
Oh.
Dev does it is, as I say goodbye, he just says something completely random that is kind of a segue, a cliff, a hook, a bloody hooky hand, if we're thinking Candyman, into the next show. So I'm gonna give you a minute or two to think about that. What line you might want to end our show with here, as I kind of ramble in my explanation of what you're supposed to be doing because I forgot to prepare you ahead of time. Does that make sense? Yeah.
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 Well, I'm not Dev, and so
True.
I probably won't say something random. My one thing, I'm actually going to, because I'm such a musical fan, I'm going to try to convince everyone to try to go see more musicals. Because I know not everyone can go to Broadway every weekend, but like any type of musical, I guarantee you there's a musical near you, either put on by a community theater or your local university or whatever. And you know what? You can find those tickets for cheap. And I think everyone should see more musicals. I'm not saying you're going to love every one of them, but give it a shot. If you've never seen a musical, like please go see at least one somewhere near you. Um and see if you enjoy it.
Yeah. Wise words. I love it. So I guess that's it for us here. Where can people find you, Dragon?
I'm at Justwantadragon on pretty much everything. Um, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all of the gaming, Steam, Blizzard, Epic. I don't know. All of them are the same. Um, but yeah, I am taking a short break from streaming right now, but I should be starting again in a couple weeks.
Woo!
So come hang out, and I'll blab about musicals and whatever else.
While you're solving puzzle games and kicking
I do
butt.
usually I I play anything. I don't know. I play whatever I feel like, which does happen to be a decent amount of puzzle and indie games. But
Totally fine. All right. So yeah, that's it for us here. thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next week with Candyman and Candyman. But until then, bye, everybody.
Bye. Don't get too spooked next week.